Good evening and welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News, where we discuss the important events that would have taken place in Guyana over the past week or so. And as is the norm, there is always a large number of issues to discuss. I want to begin by welcoming all of our viewers who are joining us on television from region number 5 and 6, to our viewers who are joining us on Freedom Radio from Rob Street, Georgetown, welcome. And welcome to all of you who are joining us on Facebook Live across the length and breadth of Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, Europe, Asia, and beyond. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. And I see hundreds of you are logged on already. Prasad Pati, Leslie Mongal, Moonshine Matadayal, Sahadev Sumra, Dralix Muni, Idel Boro, Chunilal Harku, Reginald Shiv Mangal, and so many of you. Please share the program. Press that share button on your phone. Press that share button on your computer, press the share button on your iPad, on your tablet, or whatever mechanism or device you're using to view this program from or on. Share it and use the column section, use the comment section rather. Use the comment section to let us hear your views, pose questions, raise issues that you may wish me to discuss. Let us keep the program interactive. Share the live, share the program so that we can have the widest possible audience. I want your friends and your followers to join us in tonight's discussion. Well, we are now in the last week of what has been and what will continue to be a very hectic campaign. I am pleased to report that no known incidents of violence have occurred. We have had unfortunate statements made by political leaders, which I will address at a subsequent time. But by and large, the campaign has been peaceful. We have had two instances of political parties destroying the paraphernalia of other political parties, and the PPP has been a victim. On both occasions, you had one occasion on the east coast of Demerara where persons who pretended to be WIN supporters damaged and dragged a PPP flag along the road. And then quite recently, there is a video circulating on Facebook with two individuals somewhere in the vicinity of Plaisance clearly pulling down the flag of the People's Progressive Party that was nailed to a lamppost. So both matters have been reported to the police, and I hope that the police take swift actions. The WIN political party and, Mr. Azruddin Mohammed of WIN and Mr. Aubrey Norton of the PNC have both said on different occasions publicly that they will not accept the election's results. In fact, Azruddin is quoted in Corriverton last week to have said to his supporters that he will win the elections, or that his party will win the elections, that they will win Region 7, they will win Region 8, or they have already won Region 7, they have already won Region 8, and they will win Region 6. And if the results are apparently different, they will not accept it. APNU leader, Mr. Aubrey Norton, said words, similar words to that effect. That if the PPP rigged the elections, he will not accept the results. Now, the PPP, the record of this country will show, and the history of this country will establish beyond a shadow of doubt, that the PPP has never even been accused of credibly being accused of electoral malpractices or any form of rigging. The PPP has been the victim of rigging, and the record of this country documents that. The public substantiated record of this country substantiates that. The international community can confirm that. And the PNC has had a long history of not only rigging elections, but attempting to rig elections. And the attempt was as late, or the attempts were as late as 2020, March the 2nd. The PNC also has a long history of executing violence or encouraging violence in relation to elections. You have the 1992 elections, where the PNC refused to accept the legitimate results of those elections. Elections that were observed by international, foreign, and local observers. International, foreign observers, and local observers. And because the results were not of their liking, we had violence in the streets of Georgetown. Buildings were burnt, people were beaten, people were robbed, they were looting, fire, violence, disruptions that lasted for days. 1997 elections, again they lost, even by a greater majority. Again the elections were observed by international, foreign observers and local observers and certified to be free and fair. Yet you had violence, intense violence in 1997, buildings burned, violence lasting for weeks, roads blocked across the country, fires lit all over the place, a lot of people being beaten and robbed and molested. Violent sprees occurring right across the length and breadth of the country, patently associated with the PNC. Nobody can doubt that. 2001, again they lost the elections. Again they told their supporters not to accept the results, that telling them, as they did on the three previous occasions, that they won the elections. And again that led to mayhem, robbery, violence, arson, burning, looting, and beatings of people. So against that backdrop and that history of violence associated with elections, violence that stemmed directly from political leaders telling their supporters not to accept the results. When statements are made of the type and quality made by Aubrey Norton and Azzuddin Mohammed in the historical context of Guyana, one cannot ignore them. I want to take this opportunity to condemn those statements in the strongest possible term. They are irresponsible, they are inflammatory, and there is no basis for those statements to have been made in the first place. There is no basis for Norton to allege that the PPP will be rigging elections or the PPP is likely to rig elections. We have never been accused credibly of that. And we have never participated in the rigging of elections. We have been the victim of rigged elections. And the win party, there is no basis upon which Mr. Mohammed can tell his supporters that he's winning Region 7 and winning Region 8 and winning Region whatever he says he's winning. If we are to go only on the crowds, the PPP is the party that is far ahead. If we are just to go on the crowds, on what basis is he telling his supporters or whoever gathered there that he has won these regions, and if the results come in differently, he will not accept it? These are statements that can have serious consequences, as we have seen and as our historical experiences have shown. On behalf of the government of Guyana, I have written all the international foreign observers currently in the country, drawing their attention to these dangerous publications by these political leaders. I have written to every accredited local observers and sent them a similar missive. And these matters have also been formally drawn to the attention of the Commissioner of Police. We don't want violence in this country. We don't want social disorder in this country. I believe as a country we ought to have matured. Excuse me. We have been embroiled. Excuse me. We have been embroiled in such uncivilized and undemocratic conduct for too long. Our country has graduated and it is at a particular precipice of standing internationally. And I hope that these political leaders will not drag us back to that state of lawlessness and semi-anarchy that they had descended us to in the past. That's the first point I want to make. The second point I want to make is to draw attention to some important developments taking place just outside of our borders to the west and north. Because in my respectful view, these developments have implications for Guyana and serious implications for Guyana. So we have, as I speak, based upon the news, 2 U.S. warships outside in the ocean in close vicinity to Venezuela. Those ships have on them, based upon the information in the public domain, 4,500 service members, including 2,200 Marines. Venezuela has responded and has amassed a huge number of persons and placed them in strategic positions. Hundreds of thousands, I'm told, based upon what is reported. The contention of the U.S. is that they are taking active measures to address criminality, in particular narco trafficking and organized crime emanating out of South America and the Southern Caribbean. Obviously, Venezuela has been identified as one of the centers where this criminal conduct is alleged to have emanated or is emanating. We have, as is known, an important and a very serious border controversy with Venezuela. We have, vying for the national elections of Guyana, a political party led by a gentleman and his family who are the subject of OFAC sanctions. The activities for which they are sanctioned, according to Reuters News, include gold smuggling, and it's smuggling gold illegally from Venezuela and Colombia cocaine. They are accused of smuggling gold illegally mined from Venezuela and smuggling Colombian cocaine around the world. According to one of the intelligence documents seen by Reuters, not me saying so, this is what Reuters is one of the leading international news agencies of the world. According to the document, the United States suspects that the Mohammeds smuggle Venezuela gold through Brazil and into Guyana for international export, including the Middle East. Washington also believes that Mohammed used their gold smuggling routes to traffic narcotics from Venezuela and Colombia for onward shipment to the United States and Europe, according to the documents. Anyone can go and read these statements. They are online and they have been issued as part of a special report done by Reuters, an international, very credible news agency of world and global standing. The Americans are here, as I said, to fight narco trafficking and organized crimes. This is exactly what the Mohammeds are being accused of. They've positioned their ships in close proximity to Venezuela. They have identified Venezuela as one of their targets. Mohammed is directly implicated in organized crime coming out of Venezuela or in connection with Venezuela, and drug smuggling and gold smuggling from Venezuela. These are all connections that are important. These are in addition to OFAC sanctions. And this is a country that is claiming more than two-thirds of Guyana's sovereign territory. The intelligence that is available to the US government, as published by two members of its Congress, include information that were of such integrity that led to the two members of Congress to make them public. And in those publications, they identified Mohammed as a puppet of President Maduro and a confederate in criminal conduct as part of South America. You know the exact quotes that were published. You can go back and check them out. this political this leader of the political party of this political party is vying for the presidency of Guyana. Do you understand the implications that will flow, the damage that will be done to Guyana, the damage that will be done to our governmental structure, the damage that will be done to our financial architecture if this man is ever elected and becomes part of the formal state structure of this country or part of our legislature, our lawmaking institution? Imagine our highest lawmaking institution of the land has in its membership an internationally acclaimed criminal wanted by law enforcement agencies across the globe. All of that is compounded by our territorial dispute with Venezuela. And the father of this gentleman is reported to have been visiting the Venezuelan embassy in Georgetown in recent times. You connect all of these different links, and if you don't understand the people of Guyana that I'm speaking to, the dangers of ensuring that this man and his party are not elected, not to government, they will not win any government, but not elected so that they can be part of the formal constitutional and governance structure of the state. If you don't understand the dangers of preventing, the importance of preventing that from happening, well, I don't know how else I can help you. I really don't know how else I can help you. And imagine that which is brewing out there between the Americans and the Venezuelans are likely to intensify. The next government of Guyana has a new challenge to deal with. That is to say, how it will now navigate and manage this issue. Because the entire Southern Caribbean has been identified. The US has already indicated its intention to aggressively address this matter. You need statesmanship. You need maturity, mature leadership. You need diplomatic skills to ensure our national interest is protected, our territorial sovereignty is protected, and that we continue to maintain good relationship with our closest and strongest allies in this whole equation that is unfolding. At this juncture, can you hand those responsibilities seriously over to Mohammed Azruddin, who himself seemed to be embroiled and implicated in this imbroglio? Does he have this? First of all, he's implicated, but does he have the wherewithal, the knowledge, the sense, the exposure to deal with this type of situation? Shift over to Aubrey Norton. Can you hand such a delicate situation to Aubrey Norton to manage? Has Norton ever functioned at a level of that elevation any time in his life? Guyana is not an ordinary country anymore. We are a leader in this hemisphere now, but most importantly, we are juxtaposed in the middle of an extraordinarily complex geopolitical situation that requires experience, that requires statesmanship, that requires relationships, which only we have. Irfan Ali has, the current government has, to address this situation comprehensively, skillfully, and in a manner that will best protect Guyana's national interest and the interest of its people. That is what is at stake come September the 1st. So let's move on. What is at stake also, and connected to that, what is at stake is the rule of law and democracy. Now, this entire campaign, you would have heard a lot about transformational projects. You would have heard a lot about schools, about hospitals, about roads, about highways, about bridges, about educational opportunities, about excellent health care. You would have heard about investments. You would have heard about where our growth rate is the highest in the world. You would have heard about Guyana being an extraordinarily attractive place. You would have heard about how many training institutes are going up and being established, and all the opportunities that our people are going to be exposed to, and the number of cash grants that we are going to get, and what the student subsidies are going to be, and the tuition fees are going to be removed from the university. You would have heard of all of that. And it's not my intention to repeat it, I've just summarized it there for you. But let me tell you something. None of that will ever be possible if there is a lack of democracy and a lack of the rule of law. None of it. Democracy is the lifeblood of a nation. The rule of law is what lubricates a society to keep it smoothly running. The rule of law and democracy, and they are inextricably entwined. You can't extricate them from one another. Once you have democracy, you will have the rule of law. Once you have the rule of law, you will have democracy. Without the rule of law, there is no freedom. You have no rights. You have no legal protection. And without democracy, it leads to that. A lack of democracy leads to a breakdown of the rule of law. And we lived it in this country for 28 years. And where did it take us? From Guyana being one of Her Majesty's richest colony in the English-speaking Caribbean, to Guyana, when they left us in 1992, being the poorest country, poorer than Haiti, according to the Alistair McIntyre's report. That is what a lack of democracy has done. If you don't, if you can't appreciate what the lack of democracy does, just go across to Venezuela, where they have rigged elections. The entire country is sanctioned. The president is sanctioned. The entire government is sanctioned. There is starvation. There is no social order. There is a breakdown of rule of law. People can't get to eat. I said there's starvation. You know that tens of thousands of Venezuelans are now here, eking an existence. There are now about 18 million Venezuelan refugees across the globe, begging for an existence. And a couple of years ago, not even 10, shorter than that, Venezuela was one of the richest countries here in this part of the hemisphere. That is what the lack of democracy can do and has done. Do you know where we would have been if we didn't have the votes properly counted in 2020 March 2nd elections? If Lowenfield was able to pull off this stunt, or Mingo was able to pull off this stunt that he was directed to pull off by the APNU, his sponsors, and the AFC, could you imagine where we would have been? First of all, the population would not have accepted the results, and legitimately so, because 100 countries had called upon them to accept the results, and all the international observers had called upon them to accept the results. The American government had issued statements, and all the other governments. The American government was prepared to impose sanctions on them. Now, if they didn't accept the results of the recount and declare the fraudulent results that Lowenfield wanted to declare, or declare the win, I don't know what capability he has, but he is recognized. His recognition is in the criminal world, unfortunately. He cannot be a viable option. He cannot be a viable option. So, what you are voting for, when you vote for the People's Progressive Party, is that you are voting for a government that respects the rule of law, a government that will comply with the Constitution, a government that if the court rules against it, it will criticize the court order, but it will comply with it and it will appeal. A government that will respect your rights and respect your freedoms. A government that you can criticize, as you are criticizing every day. But you don't have to fear that anybody will come and kill you afterwards, or beat you afterwards. You don't have to worry about those things. The PNC has a track record of violence. The business community, just remember how Sarah and Soku were being used against you. The business community. Not only did that style of government not attract any investments in 5 years, but the investments that were there were dried up because they had two agencies called Sarah and Soku, and they added the GRA to it, that were intimidating businessmen, sapping the economy of confidence. You had Clive Thomas saying that every 3-story building in the country will be investigated for money laundering just because the building are 3-story. He said that it is an assumption that it was built from illegal proceeds. The business community, you know who I'm speaking about. How many of you are called in by GRA and audited? The ordinary cash crop farmers You were audited by GRA in Region 5 and 6. They came and they counted the number of banks of bhaji you're planting and baigan that you're planting. That is what you're voting for, to maintain law and order and democracy. You see, these are not things that you can feel. These are not things that you can touch. And the young people may not know about these things. And that is why the parents got to explain to the young children. You see, there's a large number of persons who are going to vote now who were about 13 years in 2020. They can remember these things. 2015, they were even younger, 5, 6, 7 years. So they don't understand what they passed through. They're going to the polls for the first time, 100,000 of them. They don't understand the history of this country. They can be infatuated with Lamborghinis and sports cars. They don't understand the history of how those things were acquired. They don't understand that who's the PNC and what they did to the economy of this country. They are enjoying a lot of amenities, a lot of opportunities, a lot of privileges under this government, and they are taking those things for granted. Those things cannot be taken for granted. Those things come and are available because you have a government that is ensuring that it happens. And when you vote, that is what you are voting for. You can't imagine what the imposition of 200 taxes did to the economy of this country. 200 taxes. Let me speak to the pensioners. They took away your pensions. They took away, the subsidies on water and electricity that we were giving you. And if that was not bad enough, then they imposed VAT on the water and electricity. Made your life a living hell. Then they took away the cash grant from our children. This is liquid cash. I think it was 15,000 when we left office. It was 15,000 every child was getting. They just took that away. We are now restoring it to 100,000 from, if we go back into government, or when we go back into government, 100,000. Then you're going to get a transportation grant of another 100,000. Every baby born gets 100,000. Pension, as you are going to, your pension will raise by 60,000. And then you will get a grant for transportation. So you're not using up your pension money to go and pick up the pension. Sugar workers, we have put back over nearly 3,000 sugar workers back to the jobs. 3,000 of you. Sugar not making money, you all know that. But you're getting increase in your wages and salaries. We are sustaining the sugar industry. But you have a steady income. Just imagine where you would have been if we had continued and closed off all the sugar estates. Where you would have been. Rice farmers. Look at what they did to you. All of you who are renting state lands, they raised the rental. to $15,000 rental and D&I charges, chasing thousands of you off the land. I remember Wakenham and Legwane stopped plant because they couldn't pay. MMA, half of the farmers did not go back to the land, they can't pay. And then they seized rice lands from rice farmers. They told you that they will pay you $9,000 a bag for paddy. And when you asked them, they said, rice is private business. You can't forget these things. They took your rice and they sell it out and they never even collect the money. We had to go to Panama, file legal proceedings all the way in Paris. We spent a lot of money to just get back that 7 million US that you eventually got through our Minister of Agriculture. They stopped subsidizing D&I. They stopped subsidizing drainage and irrigation. And you know, if the Drainage and Irrigation Authority doesn't drain the lands in Guyana, what will happen to your crops? They were slowly killing agriculture. Killing agriculture. That is what they were succeeding in doing. Vehicle owners, I want to remind you, on the ban on used tires, you were forced, whether you can afford it or not. You remember those things? We are now reducing duty on these vehicles, something that we wanted to do for a very, very long time. Over the next 5 years, duty on vehicles is going to be reduced. Families, look at the help that you are getting for your children. In addition to the cash grant and the money that I spoke about, you don't have to pay fees for CXC and CSEC examinations. And then you have University of Education, which we are expanding, is now free. And then we have a massive gold scholarship that we will expand again, which allows you to study and work. Whether you're a parent, whether you're a child, whether you're a pensioner, you can work and study at the same time, at your home or at your workplace, and get an accredited degree from a recognized university. Where else in the world you have these kind of packages available? We are building a world-class oil and gas training institute at Port Moran to train your children so that they can compete effectively in the oil and gas sector. We are building a world-class hospitality institute to train your children and you so that you can work in the hospitality sector. We have 10 first-class hotels that are under construction. They will need 2,000-3,000 people to work there. And we don't have the staff. These are new jobs. Thousands of new jobs that are going to be created. This is what you're voting for. This is what you're voting for. Religious organizations, you have heard the president say that you will play a more meaningful role in the governance structure of the country. You will be integrated into the governance structure of the country because you wield tremendous amount of influence. So we have a role for the religious organizations, the business community. You know that we are now the most attractive investment destination. You know the developments that are taking place. We have American banks coming here. We have countries from all over the world that are coming to invest in Guyana. Why? Because the climate is good. The confidence in the economy is strong. The economy is is performing. They are recognizing the potential that the country has to deliver more. You are in the business community. You stand to benefit tremendously from these new developments that are taking place. You will be the ones who will pioneer. You are Guyanese. You are the ones that they will have to come to and negotiate with. We are going to review the local content law to ensure wider, greater participation of locals. Remember, we said that after a while we will review it once we build capacity. Well, after more than nearly 5 years, we have built capacity. And one of the first things that we have to do is to work out the amendments to the local content legislation to enlarge it, to enlarge the scope of it so that it caters for and it captures and brings within its net a larger number of Guyanese to participate in the industry. And we have so much other things planned in the sports and recreational center. There's going to be a hotel is being built in the vicinity of Ogle with an international indoor sporting facility, which includes cricketing, a cricket field, indoors. We are going to do back all the grounds. We have begun that process, put in lights, build tracks, build pavilions, build lavatory facility, fence it, so that in the communities you have clean recreation. We are going to work on cleaning the communities. Obviously, we have to do that. Garbage disposal is a problem. We have a plan for all these things. And that is what you're voting for. That is what you're voting for. Security is a concern. We will continue to equip the Guyana Police Force as we have been doing. The Guyana Police Force, in fact, the disciplined forces, have never been resourced in the way they are currently resourced. Never. They have never been trained in the manner in which they are now trained. We will continue that because criminality and crime is a serious problem in Guyana. And we need to invest heavily. We need to invest and will continue to invest heavily in the crime fighting sector. Street lights are going to be distributed widely across the country. We have to light up this country. It must look beautiful. We are going to put closed circuit camera right across the country so that images are captured regularly. So criminals in your community can be picked up easily by the police. These are all plans that we have, and they are in our manifesto. A comprehensive menu of measures, a comprehensive plan that touches every single sector of our country, every single class of our population. And what is even perhaps the most important thing is that you can trust the PPP more than any other political party on the landscape. You can trust the PPP. The PPP has 75 years record in politics. 75 years. And you can hardly identify a promise that we have made and not delivered. We prefer not to make the promise than to make one and breach it. So when we make a promise to you, when the PPP makes a promise to you, it's a promise that you can take to the bank. It's a promise that you can rest assured that we will deliver. If we can't, we'll come back to you and apologize and explain to you why we can't do it. Over the next 5 years, we have to position Guyana to take over the leadership role in the Caribbean. We got to position Guyana to feed the Caribbean. We are working in that direction. We will provide energy security for the Caribbean. We are already the leading voice on climate change. And we are building important trade linkages. That's why we are building the Quarantine Bridge. Then we are building the road to Letem. So you can drive from Paramaribo all the way to Roraima in Brazil in a matter of hours. That's the type of linkages with a deep water harbor, the mouth of the Berbice River. We are building out all the port facilities. We are building another port at Blairmont. We are dredging the Demerara River to build out Port Georgetown to meet international standards, because we have to. Contracts have already been signed. The works will begin to dig out the channel, dig out the river, dredge it, and then begin the work to build proper port facilities. We are already working on a legislation, a port authority law that will govern the way the port regulates. We are doing the same thing at Parika. We are doing the same thing at Pomeroon, Charity. That is our vision for Guyana. And so we are at an exciting time in our political history. We are at an exciting time in the economic history of this country. And that is why I say, whenever I get the opportunity, that you who are living now are the most fortunate and blessed generation of Guyanese to have ever lived. What you are enjoying now, and what you have the potential to enjoy, is what your foreparents and parents and grandparents dreamt of. That's what they struggled for. That's what they toiled for, but they never got the opportunity to see it happen. You have the opportunity to see it happen. And you have the power to ensure that it happens. And that power is in that ballot. So come September the 1st, how you exercise that ballot will determine whether we achieve all these plans and programs that I just outlined. Whether you move from where you are to a different, far superior quality of life, and whether your family moves in that direction. My operator is signaling to me that we have reached program time. I want to thank you very much. This is our last program before September the 1st, 2025 elections, and I thought that I'll dedicate the program to speaking exclusively to you about matters relating to elections. So come September the 1st, vote solidly for the People's Progressive Party Civic. Thank you.